Linda Dustin, and welcome to the I Ching Cafe and our weekly I Ching overview for the week commencing the 18th of September 2023. Before we get into what this week is asking us to pay attention to, let's have a look at what last week brought to our awareness. Well, we had the magnificent Hexagram 55, abundance, and two powerful connection points coming to make us aware of how we can tap into our abundance consciousness, how we can dispel the myths that we have created around money and finance and experience and joy, and how we can reframe that, how we can move forward in manifesting that which is important to us. Plus an advisory from the I Ching through Hexagram 15 to approach things in a modest, balanced way. The middle path. Take the middle, balance and adjust and cut down to size and expand where too small to find the middle way. Now, what did that mean for you last week? What was the abundance coming into your life, even if it was a shift in the way that you were thinking about a situation that results in, maybe in the future, maybe in the weeks to come, a better experience, a better return in your business, in your personal relationships, whatever is important to you right now. I had the experience of an idea coming to me, a business idea coming that involved something that was small. And, sometimes we have this idea that, abundance comes through these kind of big deals, right? And this was an opportunity to work on a small deal, a deal that could continue to kind of trickle along, right, and continue to add into the pot. And I thought to myself, what an amazing example of this idea of Hexagram 15, of being modest and balanced, not trying to come up with this huge, massive creative idea, but actually just that abundance can come in small packages because they can continue to give and give and give over the long term. So that was my reflection, my insight. As I went through the week, this thing came up, the connection came up, and I went, I have seen this before. Yes, the weekly I Ching brought this to my awareness. So for you, if there was anything that came up for you in this past week, please do share a comment. Love to hear your comments. So this week, what are we focusing on? Where is our attention being called to that we can maximize this week? All right, and it is Hexagram again for Youthful, Folly. All right, the week before last, as we started off for the month of September, we had Youthful Folly. This hexagram is back, with different changing lines, 3 changing lines. So the one from the beginning of September is not repeated. So there's a whole lot of new learning to take place, right? So let's work through this hexagram. Youthful Folly is like the full card in tarot, if you are into that, or the idea of possible, the explorer going on a journey and just being, kind of very naive and very uneducated and kind of not really sure what they know and going upon this journey of bounding down the road. Now, when we are the fool, when we are foolish, when we are young, we can make the mistake of being too in the glee moments, right? Too foolish, too in silliness, all right? And we can lose our way. We can lose our way because we get caught up in the adventure. Or we can realize that actually we don't know as much as we think we know, all right? So one of the risks of this hexagram is that we get caught up in this idea that we know more than we do, That is where the true folly lies. To be that wonderful, exuberant youth, that has all that energy of the fool, of possible, going on this bold new adventure, but also to temper that with humility and an openness to learn as much as possible, to embrace and see things in a new way, and to recognize that actually we don't have all the answers, we don't have the wisdom, we're not experienced yet, to perhaps in a particular situation even become aware of where the pitfalls are. So this might be a week within our teams, within our businesses and personal relationships, our lives, where we say, you know what, I'm going to accept that somehow this week, if I'm working with the highest flow possible with this hexagram, I'm going to recognize that there's something that I need to learn. I'm going to be open and I'm going to embrace the fact that there is more to see and understand on a situation, and I'm going to embrace whatever learning that calls me to do. I think that wherever we're in a situation of frustration, okay, let's try and make it practical for this week ahead, right? Wherever you feel frustrated and you feel absolutely convinced, all right, that you know what the situation is about, that is most likely going to be the place where Youthful Folly goes, you see that? Okay, so let us be very conscious this week as we go through this week that we are on a journey, right? And wherever we are convinced we know what the issue is, we know how to solve it, we have all the answers, wherever you feel that in this week coming up, just take a moment, step back from it and say, where might I actually not know what I'm doing? Where might I be cutting myself off from learning because I have this attitude that my glass is full, there's nothing more to learn? And where might I expand my opportunities and learn and accelerate my development by saying, you know what, there's a good chance there's something I don't understand yet here. Let me get the information to broaden my understanding. And so with this hexagram comes the call for humility, comes the acceptance. There might be things hidden, right, outside our view because we just don't have eyes yet to see and appreciate what it is. And if we can do that and we can just stay open, that youthful energy of the foolish fool, right, the young youth trotting down the road on an adventure, can be coupled with this openness to learning and this humility in handing over learning and opening up to what others have to say or what others have to give or what the situation is trying to bring to our awareness. And that shift is extremely powerful for us to make. There are 3 changing lines, okay, in the first, 4th, and 5th positions. So let's have a look at what these changing lines are asking us to pay attention to. In the first position, right? The first position is at the bottom because that's the flow of the lines. They start at the bottom and they go to the top. In the first position, okay, this is the beginning, okay, something entering. So what we're being asked with this changing line is to get serious, get our head in the game, okay, and apply some purposeful discipline, okay. So what this line is warning us about as the week starts off, that we have the risk of just going a little wild, okay? Being too in play, having too much fun, being too much in just living the moment, whatever, being silly and just like handing over the energy, okay? This changing line says this week, there is something here where putting our game face on, getting serious, okay, putting some discipline into our lives, okay, is really important. Because if we don't, embarrassment and humiliation. No, none of us want that. So as we start off the week, that is our challenge, is to see where we might be tempted to being overly silly, overly reckless, overly playful, when the situation this week calls our attention to seriousness, getting the job done, being focused, okay, being in our adult, all right, and imposing upon ourselves purposeful discipline, not harsh discipline, purposeful discipline, discipline that helps us get to where we want to go next. In position 4, you know that is, we've crossed the chasm, right? That chasm that sits between the bottom 3 lines or trigrams or the top 3 lines, that's the chasm. We've crossed the chasm into line 4. And with this line, we are cautioned about getting caught up and entangled in ourselves and the way we're thinking. So if we are entangled in our silliness, all right, our silly thoughts, our convoluted thinking, we're entangled and tied up, okay, it ties us down and we then are tied into our silliness and our foolishness. What we want to be is freed from that, freed from the entanglements that we have created or that we've accepted because we have stayed in folly, right? We haven't learned something yet. The way that we do this is we look at where are we entangled in a world of fantasy, ideas, hopes, okay? And where is the world of reality? And that shift, if we can give some energy in shifting out of the fantasy and into the reality of the situation, that shifts us and gets that learning process moving and accelerating. So where for us, as we work through the week, does it pop up? How do I know this is true? It's almost going back to our monthly hexagram of saying, is it really true? Okay. So maybe we can apply that question this week and ask ourselves, when we are convinced of a situation and we have a very fixed idea of this is what it is, or we have a view on something, is this really true? Okay. Can we use our critical faculties to move us out of the fantasy, out of the entanglement of the idea, being in love with the idea, and move into the reality of what this moment means? What does this moment now ask of us? What are we expected to do this week to accelerate our learning? What is the reality of the here and now? Not some future time, now. And this line really asks us to go into liberating ourselves, liberating the fool. Okay, the fool has become stuck and trussed up in these ideas and fantasies. We need to liberate this wonderful, energetic youth who's on a journey of learning and exploration. And unless we move from fantasy to reality, we will not be able to do that. And then in line 5, it's a line of strength. Okay, it's a position of strength. Line 5 here almost epitomizes this idea of the highest principles of Hexagram 4, Youthful Folly. It speaks to this idea of recognizing we don't know everything, saying we need to learn, embracing what learning is needing to take place, and approaching it with an open, fun, positive attitude. Okay, so we could, when we face a situation where we realize we don't know everything, or we're on a learning journey, okay, we could get angry and frustrated, okay, and activate a whole pile of negative emotions related to that issue. What this changing line says is, when you hit that point where you realize you've got things to learn, you recognize the path, you recognize what you need to do, we approach it with a spirit of openness and fun and energy, and we tackle our learning and we whistle as we walk down the road on this adventure called life. Okay, easy to say, really difficult to do. And so there's 3 interesting changing lines to bring us an awareness of how we can grow up this week. When we need to grow up, we've got our first changing line calling us to get serious, to apply some good quality self-discipline. We have another changing line saying fantasy versus reality. Get out of the idea and into action. And we have line 5 saying give energy to where we need to learn. Have an open, fun-hearted attitude to what it is that we're needing to learn next. So where do those lines, where does Hexagram 4, Youthful Folly, go? It goes to Hexagram 10, Treading. This is the little girl running after the tail of the tiger. And if she runs too fast, she runs the risk of standing on his tail and him turning around and, giving her a fright, or worse still, giving her a little nip. This hexagram treading is all about the journey we are on, treading the path. And what we have to do with this hexagram is there's an important goal we're working towards. And this hexagram says, continue on towards the goal or the power that we are trying to activate and work with, which is this tiger, okay? The way we do it is we proceed step by step. We do not run, we do not sprint, we do not skip. We don't skip steps, we follow a process, okay? This is getting us into process thinking, following a process, putting one foot in front of the other, and following the power that's calling you forward. There's a wonderful energy calling you forward. There's a wonderful power here, okay? The tiger is wrapped up in the situation. We can use the energy of the tiger to move forward, but we have to follow the energy slowly. A few steps behind, not too fast. If we race ahead, we catch up with the tiger and we get a fright or a nip. What we do is we pace ourselves and we keep moving forward. So this week certainly points to us to a journey of learning on many different fronts, of learning how to be great at accepting that our wisdom, our knowledge is not yet where it needs to be on an issue. There might be things we don't know, we can't see. Accepting that there's something outside of the vision of what we can see, what we can perceive with our senses, okay? Working with those changing lines and realizing that this week we have the opportunity to make progress, but we work towards the goal, putting one foot in front of the other. No racing, no running, no hysteria. Real action, not fantasy, putting action into play, one foot in front of the other. Well, a lot going on in the week to come, and wishing you a fantastic week doing so. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe or hit the follow button on the podcast. It'd be great to have you with me as new episodes drop. And if this was meaningful to you, I'd really appreciate you gave me a like. All right, that really helps the channel. I really appreciate that. I'll see you on the socials, and I'll see you for our next weekly overview, which is the last one for September. See you there.